fishes pretty well year round, but again the summer months generally the best, from around about November through to about the end of April. We've just pulled up at the ICICLES shoreline, which is just downstream to the entrance to Marramarra Creek. Now we've arrived here at low tide so that we can show you the intertidal zone. You can see the high water mark. That area between low water and high water is literally a smorgasbord of food for the fish. The oysters, the crabs that hide in the rocks, the growth on the rocks, that's all food for the fish, but they can only get to it at high tide. And bream being fairly spooky fish, generally it's only going to be at night that they'll come into that shallow water. So if you can pick a time, high tide around about 8 or 9 o'clock at night, when there's no moon, those lovely dark nights, this is a spot to be fishing right in close, because that's where the fish will be, and they're chasing the food. It's a fairly typical shoreline of a lot of other areas in the Hawkesbury River, particularly up in Cowan Creek and Marramarra Creek. Top spots for bream, fishing at night, those dark moonless nights, high tide around about 8 or 9 o'clock. We're anchored on another spot that fishes quite well after flood conditions. It's the eastern side of Dangar Island. Now the marks I use are the two channel markers that mark the northeast corner of the Dangar shoals. Now if you can imagine those as being two corners of an equilateral triangle, we're positioned on the third point, just on the edge of the channel. Now you can go over this area again with the sounder and it looks barren. It's sand and mud, except for a couple of little lumps. And it's those lumps we're looking for, because they tell me that they're trees that came down with the floods, sunk, and are sitting on the bottom, and that's what the bream use for a bit of protection. They sit in behind those trees in the run-out tide. And it's the last 2 hours of the run-out tide that tend to fish the best. The Dangar Island shoals themselves, they extend from these two channel markers all the way through to the southern channel markers and through to the island. Now they're fairly shallow water, about 2 to 3 metres. Good drifting ground for flathead, for whiting, and also an excellent spot to set your witches' hats for the blue swimmer crabs. But keep this spot in mind. After flood conditions, the northeast corner of Dangar Island, good spot for bream. Well, we've just come on a school of tailor in Broken Bay, having a bit of fun with these. Likely to find bonito, salmon, kingfish, schooling in Broken Bay just about all year round, but particularly from November to December through to about the end of May. We're tossing lures at them, of course. That's the best fun. It's the most active form of fishing, but you'll get them on bait too if you're just out after a feed. Well, a whole pilly on a set of gangs, flick it out unweighted, and you'll catch them. All you got to do is look for the birds working. You can see them out there. They're working over the school of fish, which are feeding on very small white bait. And just cast a few lures to them. Try and match the lure to the bait they're feeding on. Start with small lures on light gear, and if they're really active, well then they'll take just about anything and go to bigger lures. But they're great fun. I mean, this is a ball, particularly on light gear. Got big fish. What's the legal size on these fellas, of course? 30 centimetres the legal length, and there's a bag limit of 20, so don't take too many. We'll let this fella go, he's only a little fella. And watch those teeth. Boy, can they give you a nasty chop. There we go. Oh, an early morning session on the surface pelagics around Broken Bay. Isn't it magic? Isn't it fun? These are not big, they're only half to 1 kilo tailor. But oh, it's great fun. Got to be early morning though. And hopefully when there's not too many boats around. Whoa! Go down the light gear, 2 to 3 kilo, and you can have a ball. With a bit of luck, we might even find some salmon and bonito mixed in with these. In fact, this might even be a salmon or a bonito. He's not giving up. Whoa! Oh, this is great fun. Using little chrome lures, of course, fairly small. They're feeding on very small whitebait. So if you can match the hatch, use a chrome lure about the same size as the bait they're feeding on, you've got a much better chance of them taking the lure. Although they're fairly aggressive this morning, they're taking just about anything, but this fella's given me a little bit of curry, actually. Great on light gear. This is great fun. Doesn't want to give up, this fella. Here he comes. It's a bonito. Mainly for the sport, although these fellas are quite good eating. They've got a very good, nice white flesh, the bonito. They're not like the striped tuna. And they're excellent bait for the snapper. Oh, can't beat it. But most importantly, they're great fun to catch. Great sports fish. On light gear, you can't beat them. Great fun, these tailor. Don't forget, there's a size limit on these fellas, 30 centimetres, and a bag limit of 20, so don't take too many. Not bad eating, as long as you eat them fresh. They don't freeze particularly well. They thaw very soft, so if you're going to eat them nice and fresh. He might go just size, but we'll put him back anyway, I think. Ah, another little tailor. All right, something there to go at that. Ha! Well, as I said, mixed in with the tailor, there could be some big stuff, and look at that. I tell you what, whatever hit that was a monster, possibly a big kingy. Oh, let's get back and see if we can get him. Good thing I went back to the heavy gear. This is not a chopper tailor, this is a better fish. Quite often, if you let the lure sink a little bit lower, you'll find the bigger fish are underneath the surface, the small surface chopper fish feeding on the bait. They're feeding on all the scraps. Particularly bonito, they tend to lay very low in the water, so quite often a good idea to let the lure sink right to the bottom before you start your retrieve, and you've got a good chance of picking up a bigger fish. This fella's not too bad. Possibly a bonito. Ooh. You'll notice I'm using the old favourite rod, very soft action rod. It takes all those sudden dives and jerks. Nothing fancy about it. I've had it for about 20 years, but boy, it's caught some big fish. My guess at a bonito, could be a salmon, but I think it might be a bonito. If it had been a salmon, I think you would have been jumping, doing a bit more jumping, staying close to the surface, but this fella's staying deep. Yeah, it's a bonito. Just try and lift him in, I think. There we go. Boy, are they great fun to catch. Never give up, bonito. There are a number of bait grounds in the Hawkesbury system where you can get live yellowtail for bait. This is one here at West Head at the mouth of Pittwater. The channel marker just off the jetty, the ferry jetty at Palm Beach is another popular spot. And just around the front of Barrenjoey on the seaward side, on the northern side, the game boats often anchor up there and they'll catch their live yellowtail there. If you're further upriver, most of the little bays in Cowan Creek, if you just tie up to the permanent mooring buoys in the little bays there, you'll be able to find yellowtail in good numbers. Now, the rig we normally use